Loss mitigation space, that's what we're going to talk about. I think this is real generally what every notary needs to know about this space. So first off, what is loss mitigation? That is the process of borrowers and mortgage servicers working together to create a plan to avoid foreclosure. So it is a provision that our lenders come up with to help make sure that our borrowers can stay in their home or avoid a foreclosure proceeding, which can be lengthy and troublesome. So that's what the loss mitigation space. For you as a notary signing agent, what that's going to mean? Well, it's going to mean loan modification, partial claims, and deed in lieu signings. So we're going to go over what those are and then how to proceed with any number of those different types of signings. So the first one we'll talk about is a loan modification. So what is a loan mod? If a borrower falls behind on paying their mortgage payments, they may be at risk for a foreclosure, right? So some lenders offer that loan modification to help borrowers keep their home. A loan mod is an agreement between the borrower and the lender to change the original terms of the loan, such as payment amount, term of loan, and interest rate. So again, it's all under that branch of loss mitigation, but that's what a loan modification is. So they're changing the terms in order to stay in the house and avoid foreclosure. Typically, this happens once the borrower falls behind. So it's not like you're like, man, I've got this mortgage and I'm up to date on my payments, but I'd really like to change the terms. Lenders really only offer this if you are falling behind. So this is someone who hasn't been able to pay their mortgage for, X amount of months. And that's when they would reach out to the bank and see if there's any loss mitigation services, right? Or loan modification. So that's what it is. Let's talk about what partial claims is. So a partial claim is an interest-free loan from the Housing of Urban Development, or HUD, to get caught up with overdue payments. So this loan would be subordinate to their first loan. So it would be like a second loan, and it doesn't have to be repaid until the first mortgage is paid off. So it's whether you pay off the first mortgage like you would in the original terms of that first loan, or if, say, you sell the property. So you sell the property, first loan is paid back, and then this subordinate partial claim is paid back. This product can provide a relief to a borrower who may be 4 to 12 months behind on their payments. So under this partial claim option, lenders are authorized to basically advance funds on behalf of a borrower to reinstate a delinquent loan. So that's another way that, oh no, something's happening weird here. Hold on. I think I had two up. This, by the way, is the story of my life when it comes to technology. So thanks for bearing with me. Okay, so that's what a partial claim is. It is, again, a little loan that will help them to get caught up on those overdue payments. So say for 4 months, they weren't able to make their loans or their loan payment. Maybe that was $12,000. A partial claim would be like a little interest-free $12,000 loan that has to get paid back after their first primary loan is paid. So that's what that is. Okay, what about a deed in lieu? So this is a transaction in which the homeowner voluntarily transfers title to the property or of the property to the bank. In exchange, the lender agrees to forgive the amount left on the loan. And this is done to satisfy a loan that is in default and to avoid foreclosure proceedings. So that's what a deed in lieu is. Basically, the borrower says, I can't pay the rest of the loan. I don't want to pay it anymore. And the bank or lender decides, okay, we'll forgive the rest of the loan if you transfer title to us. So it's like an exchange. They transfer the title to them. They don't have to pay the rest of the loan. And again, all of this is under that loss mitigation. All of this is the lender and the borrower working together to avoid a foreclosure proceeding, right? That's the aim of all of these, is to avoid foreclosures. Some of them, like we discussed with loan mods or partial claim, it's to help them not become delinquent anymore, right? And avoid foreclosure. But the goal in those is to keep the signers in their homes. A deed in lieu is someone who's like, I don't want to deal with this loan or this property anymore. Let's do what my family would call a bargain deal. Here's the title, you pay off my loan, you forgive my loan amount. So these are the main kind of loss mitigation services. There may be other kind of loss mitigation, but as a notary signing agent, this is really what you're going to see day to day. Now, why are we even talking about this? It's important to have a general knowledge of what we're signing, right? It's going to help you approach the whole process with a lot more knowledge. Every other thing that happens when you accept a job like this, well, now you'll have a little bit of background. You'll know what kind of homeowner this might be. This homeowner might be someone who is really desperate to stay in their home, so they're very eager to sign. This homeowner might be very mad that this whole thing is happening, right? So they might be a little bit more aggressive or a little bit more frustrated, or maybe not as eager to sign. So you really can never tell, right? Every signing is different. Every borrower is different. Every reason why this situation happens is different. Some people are very strategic. They know I'm not going to be able to pay that loan, so they intentionally go into a delinquent state in order to negotiate. So maybe they're super excited about getting this because it's kind of part of their plan. This is still, now, if you've been doing this a long time, or if you're new and you're like, why aren't there tons of jobs? The reason why is because this field, when COVID happened, was inundated. Thousands and thousands of signings were sent over to us every day for the loss mitigation space. It was crazy because people were like, we can't pay our loans. We don't have jobs, right? Or we're on unemployment. That's not going to be enough. Since COVID's kind of let up a little bit and interest rates have gotten higher, that's another thing. During COVID, interest rates were super low, right? Super low. So if someone had, say, a 5% loan, they're like, hey, I could get a 2% if I do a loan modification, right? So the bank had something to offer them that would be beneficial. Now, since COVID has let up, and with that, the rise of interest rates, now the banks just don't have as good a loans to offer all those people who got loan modifications or regular loans in the past, right? Now, if the lenders are saying, yeah, we could give you a 6%, but they had a 4%, well, they're not, that doesn't make any sense, right? So, but this is still a big field. We have hundreds of partial claims sent over to us every day. Deed in lieus, they happen, right? Loan mods happen, maybe a little differently, but this is still a field. So a lot of new notaries are frustrated that things are a little bit slower because they haven't been able to really get their foot in the door and get a lot of work and a lot of experience. But this is still a part of our industry that is alive, although it's changed a little bit. And that's kind of what happens when things slow down, is that the types of loans we do change. Let's keep going. Okay, so let's talk about what you need to know about these when accepting these kind of orders. So fees, and this is I'd say number one gripe for notaries. Why are the fees so low? So typically you're going to get fees. Now it depends on where you are. If you are in the middle of nowhere, you get to name your price a lot of times. But if you're in an area where there is a lot of notaries, you might be getting $35 to $75 for these products. We'll talk about why right now. Why is 35 the norm, or 40 or 75? Well, the signing is free to the signers. So the lender pays out of pocket for all costs associated with getting this process completed. So what they do is, this isn't going, they're not going to charge the signer, and there's not like an escrow account for the signer to pay into, right? Like when you refinance, there are closing costs, right? And part of those closing costs is the notary cost. So the borrower, in most cases, pays for the signing. So there's a little bit more room to pay the notary. In this case, there isn't that. So all those costs are going to be absorbed by the lender. And so they want to keep these costs low, right? Because they can. They're not necessarily making money on these files, right? They're just modifying, which makes them money ultimately, right? They're getting their money back instead of foreclosing, in which case they're not getting money back, right? They may eventually get the property, but that's all long term. So immediately there's not money that the lender is making. So because they're paying out of pocket, they bundle all these costs. And sorry to say, for all of us, we are the lowest guy on the totem pole and we get paid the least. And so, for example, the lender will go to a title company to handle all the title work associated with these loss mitigation products, right? So pulling up previous title, recording these new documents, looking at all of the past title documents and all of that. And title is typically responsible for hiring the signing company, signer, or signing agent, right? So all of those fees are bundled. I don't know how much they make, it really depends, but say they make $500 for one loan modification, escrow. From that, they're going to have to pay the notary, and then escrow. So it's like everyone's like, we need to save as much money as possible. So then escrow tells us, okay, we need a notary. So they'll typically sub it out to a signing company, because the people who are responsible for the loss mitigation, a lot of them are big lenders, right? With lots and lots of loans. There are some little guys and they may pay more, but the big lenders, they, of course, big companies, right? Big corporate America, they want costs to be super, super low, because somebody way at the top is making a lot of money while the rest of us are just making a little bit of money. But anywho, so they bundle it all, and we get the lowest cost because there's just not money being made, right? It's not like a big money making operation, not like reverse mortgages. Reverse mortgages, there's a lot of money in those, but they're also take forever and can take up to a year to get going. This, on the other hand, can be relatively quick to get this process going, and there's no money in it. So that's why we get paid so low, because the costs are bundled and the lender pays out of pocket. So they want to see how much do we spend on a product that is right now not making us money, and that's why. Also, on top of that, their reasoning is, well, the page and notarization count are low, which means less printing, quick signings in general. Now, of course, there's variability in that. If it's a super rural area, it's going to cost more. If it's a complicated signing with multiple trips, it's going to cost more. So there is negotiation in that, but that's just a really general breakdown of why the fees are low. More to keep in mind when scheduling, which can make you maybe want to take these files. So the scheduling is generally, and when I say generally, if there's 100 loss mitigation files, 90 are going to be open time and date. So we're going to get them with no time and date. Nobody is confirmed, hey, when do you want to sign? They send us over the order and we get to schedule them, which means you have a little bit of negotiation power in terms of when we're going to sign these documents. So we always generally want to defer to the borrower's schedule, but because they're open time and date and there's not really like it needs to sign today, which is very unusual, right? If you're doing a refinance or a HELOC or a seller's or buyer's package or reverse mortgage, those might be date sensitive. And it's kind of the reverse, where our client is telling us when it needs to sign. Loss mit products are up to you and the signer to determine when the signing is. So hold up. So we can kind of make the determination. You can call the borrower and say, hey, what's your schedule like? Oh, I can sign this day, this day, this day. You could say, okay, so can I, and you can move that around. So you can schedule it in your day. So if you have signings and you have 3 refinances have to go today, and then you have a few loss mitigation files, loan mod, deed in lieu, partial claims, whatever the product is, you can kind of fit those in or move those out or push those forward. So that's really nice. Also with this kind of product, there's typically, like I mentioned, these are the big corporations. They have a high signing volume, and a lot of times a high signing volume in a certain locale. So this is something that a lot of notaries on our loss mitigation department will do, is they'll take as many as they can. So they'll call our schedulers and say, I'm in, wherever, name your city. I'll take all of your unfilled signings in this area. Can you put them in my name? Because it's not like, oh, shoot, I have to do them all today. No, you can spread them out over the week and according to the borrower's schedule. So that's a little tip, is that if you're in a certain area, and this might be something you email the training, if you really want to be taking these files, and we can reach out to the schedulers over on our loan mod division and tell them, hey, so-and-so wants all of the ones in the area. Now you still, and we'll go into scheduling in a minute. It's not like you can just hold those files for a long time, but it means that you can take as many as you can, because the scheduling is open. Another quick note about accepting these orders is, just like we mentioned at the start of this slide, because the fees are low, because the lender pays out of pocket, because they bundle the cost, fee negotiations have to be done before accepting these orders. We need to take it back to our client and say, hey, the lowest cost we can do for this is $120 or whatever it is, $100. And we need to list the reasons why, because of X, Y, and Z. And then there might be a delay in you getting that assignment while we're waiting for that fee to be approved. So this division is tough, because there is a lot of red tape. It's a lot of, okay, well, this is what it is. Let me go and check with my boss. And then we wait for the boss to check with their boss. And then when their boss comes back to it, we can get back to you. And that's frustrating, right? But it's the nature of this beast, right? There's good and there's bad. So that's a little bit about accepting these orders. Let's go to the next slide. What you need to know about scheduling these orders. So when I talked to our loan modification division group, a big part of what they wanted us to talk about today was the scheduling. So let's talk about the general rules of scheduling these kind of files in particular. You want to open the order, or once you're assigned to an order, get on that contracting company's website right away and open it. Read all the instructions on our loan modification division unit, whether it's the one on Notary Dash or SnapDocs, or if it's on the Doc Cloud. There is going to be a ton of instructions. Always. You're never going to see a loan mod with no instructions, because it is such a touchy product that there's always a lot of instructions. So read all the instructions, ask for the contracting company for confirmation on any of the questions. Like I said, there's always going to be lots of detailed instructions, probably more than you would like to read, but there it is. And then remember that all communication on these files needs to be done through the contracting company's dashboard. That's your record. Calling is good, and you should call when necessary when you have questions, especially on the signing, when you're confirming that you're receiving the signing. But following up with an email on the dashboard is critical. We want to see that you're on there. That's our record keeping, right? So all communication needs to be done on the dashboard. So what's a dashboard? It's the portal that the company that's hiring you uses, right? So if it's with Coast to Coast, you're going to be on the Notary, Notary Dash. Ooh, my brain just forgot it. The Doc Cloud or SnapDocs. Or maybe you're doing one with another company like First American Signing Services, FAS. You're going to go on their website. The initial call, so you negotiate the fee, you get the signing, you open up the order, you read it. The initial call must be made within 1 hour of receiving the signing. Some paper will say within 24 hours, but we always say within 1 hour. So make that call as soon as you possibly can. But before scheduling that call or making that scheduling call, open the docs. And what's also nice about these, and it's different than, say, any other kind of product, is that typically when you're assigned to the order, docs are ready. So you're able to open up the docs immediately. And that's really nice. Can't say that about refinances, HELOCs, sellers, pretty much any other set. It really depends on the client, whether they have the docs ready or not at the time of scheduling the signing, but you will with mods or lost MIT. So you want to open up the docs and look at the signers listed. So look at the schedule, the signature lines. It's your responsibility to make sure that all signers are present for the closing. When calling and confirming, you want to make sure that all signers will be at the signing. So you might be given a name and a number for one signer, but you open up the docs and there are two. When you make that call, you tell them, is John Smith also going to be present, Maggie Smith? And that's when they'll give us information. Yep, they'll be there, or hold the phone. No, they won't be there. They're dead, or we're divorced, or I don't have any idea who that person is. Now, does that sound like your responsibility? Well, it is, it is, because in this space, because there is so little funds allotted to this product, someone must be responsible. And unfortunately, some of these loss mitigation companies put that on us. And so we have to do that. Now, that's good practice as a notary signing agent anyways, in any kind of product that you may be dealing with, is looking at the docs and making sure that those people are going to be there. Many companies outside of this realm, so just escrow and title, will consider that your responsibility. So it's always good practice. So make sure everyone's there at the signing. If you can't reach the signers, you want to leave a voicemail and continue to call every day for at least 4 consecutive days. For our big loss mitigation department, which is currently on Notary Dash, that website, that's what they require, that 4 consecutive attempts every day. In our website, you have to put, I've called and left a message, this is the first attempt. I've called and left a message, this is the second, and so on, for at least 4 consecutive days. And you're going to update the website with all interactions and all attempts afterwards as well. And I'll tell you the reason why. So these big companies have what they call SLAs. Basically, what it is the contract between, say, lender and escrow. There's a contract between them. And in that contract, it says you must call the signer every day for 4 consecutive days. And so if we don't do that, they don't meet their SLA, their contract. They're failing their end of the contract. So they rely on us as the notaries, as the people that are going out there, to do so. Every day there is a report that we give to our big client that handles this, the escrow title company, and they look and see which files are in or out of SLA. And that all of that just is, I come from a small business. So to me, all of these contracts and SLAs and red tape and yellow tape and all that, to me, it's ridiculous, but it's the world we live in. So we have to do it, right? So the big thing is just communicate every day. Try to reach the signers every day. If additional trips are required, so if you call the signer and they say, hey, I'm going to be in LA County, but the other signer is going to be in San Bernardino and you're not going to be able to do both. Or maybe you are going to be able to do both, but of course you're going to need more money, right? You don't want to just start making those moves. Okay, then I'll go to you and then I'll go to you. You want to first get your fee approved, right? I don't want, because this is what will happen. The client will say, well, we didn't know about that second cost. We didn't know about that. They didn't give us enough time to decide whether we were going to pay that extra $20. And so now our company's in a position of going, hey, our client might not pay us. So, we will pay you, but now we're out of money, right? And it needs to all work for all of us in order for this thing to keep going. So if you find out that more is needed, you're going to want to not just jump to do the signing, even though I love, listen, that's how Lisa, the owner of this company, and how I was trained, is to just jump and do it. But in this kind of realm, you want to make sure you get paid. So everything has to get approved. So you, on that initial call, that's why it's so important that you confirm everyone's there. You want to make sure that you tell them, so-and-so won't be there. 2 trips will be required. I will require this as my new fee. And then our team will go back, tell the client, might be a day or two, might delay things a little bit, but that way, when it comes back, you get your fee, right? So that's another reason why it's so important to do that. Another quick note on that confirmation call, you're going to confirm the signer's names and let them know the borrower's names must match the documents over the phone to ensure a smooth signing, right? You want to make sure that as a notary, you can very comfortably notarize those documents with no issues. Okay, so confirm all of that on that initial call with the signer. Scheduling the order. Okay, let's talk about what to know about completing these orders. So triple check documents, signatures, dates, notarizations are 100% clear and legible. Do not date for these signers. So this is how, these documents typically work, is that they're very picky about the docs coming back perfect. More picky in most cases than refinances, buyers, sellers docs. So I don't necessarily know why that's so. I have a theory, but I don't have any proof to substantiate this theory. My theory is that because they're doing the borrower like a favor, right? Oh, we're modifying your loan. They want to make it as difficult as possible for it to go through. That's my theory. Is it true? I don't know. This is just my theory. So if there is a date issue, they will kick it back and make you get it re-signed, right? Or they'll say, okay, we don't like those. We're going to ship the docs back. And then they're going to need to redate it and initial and then ship it back. So there's all these delays, right? So that's my theory on why they're so picky about these things. Again, it's a theory. I have no idea. Maybe one day someone will tell me. But anyways, so what that means for you is you want to make sure the signer's dates are clear, 100% clear, that the signers date everything. If changes are made, borrower must cross out the change, initial, and add the correction, whatever that may be. Make sure it's nice and clear. Borrowers are to sign exactly as the signature line states and consistently. The one kind of note to that is that the title company oftentimes will look at previous deeds that were recorded in the borrower for that property. So if the signature, they may say, hey, what's going on? We like this. So you want to, then this is a kind of a tricky one, but you want to go in and say, hey, you need to sign as the signature line states, or the way that you've always signed your loan documents, right? And that's why a consistent signature is nice to have just in general, right? Because escrow might review their previous signatures. There's been a few times that that's happened and it's caused an issue. I will tell you a kind of crazy story that has to do with this. There was a notary who was in, I think, the East Coast, and he would accept, kind of like what I told you, he would take all of the files in his area, all of them. And so he was always busy doing them. And at a certain point, the lender started to audit, or our client started to audit, and they were noticing that the signatures on all the files he did were wildly different than any way that the signer signed in the past. And so we approached this notary and he says, oh yeah, I'll sign in their behalf. And we're like, you know that's a forgery, right? And that's against the law. He says, well, we'll agree to disagree. Well, needless to say, we do not work with that notary anymore. And we've told the state about that behavior. But anyways, that's just a quick little story about that sign, that how the borrowers need to sign consistently in general across loans, right? Across signings, across deeds, because the client might pull up the previous deeds and go, hey, this looks a little different. Now, if it's way different, that's really what they're looking at. So they just make sure on the signing, you say, if you can sign how the signature line states or how you've signed all of your loan documents in the past. If they have a real clear cursive signature, sign how the signature line states. If they have a loop-de-loop symbol, let them continue with their symbol. Okay, so another thing that this is what we say all the time across all kinds of loans or any general notary work is to triple check your notarizations when they're completed. Make sure that they're completed in their entirety. A lot of times the states, depending on the state you're in, might have weird questions in the middle of your notarization. Make sure to fill those out, because if they're not filled out, they will need to be filled out eventually. Something that's different on these docs than many others is that errors on docs may require a full re-sign of the entire package. For loan documents, refinances, purchases, HELOCs, if there's one page that wasn't signed, we just go get that one page re-signed, right? Not in the case with loan mods. Or the loss mitigation space in general. A full re-sign of the package is required. That includes date issues. If one date is missing, that can sometimes be required. Or notarization issues. So what if you forget to stamp a package? With other orders, you might just provide an all-purpose acknowledgement that would replace the original. In this case, they require you, or what is required is that they'll ship the package back to you. You stamp it and you ship it back. That's now 2 additional FedEx labels that have a fee. So notary errors on these are not fun, right? They are a tiny set of documents, and we're going to actually go over a standard set in a minute. These are maybe 10 to 15 pages, maybe 20 pages at most, with 3, 4 signatures, 1, 2 notarizations, right? So you want to make sure you get it right. So that's kind of the thing about these docs is they're little, they're open time. They may not be a super high fee, but you can sure as heck do lots of them in a day, schedule lots of them, right? But if you make an error, you have to re-sign the whole thing, right? So it's all about like being very careful with these. And then this last little tip is you got to ship the docs out immediately after a closing, right? That's for any kind of file. And at a location that provides a receipt, if you have one in your area. Some people only have boxes. If you have an authorized ship center, we discourage Walgreens, Office Depot, Staples, just because they don't take accountability. So if a package is lost, they really don't care. If like they don't have a lot of packages that day, they will tell FedEx, oh, pick up tomorrow. And in the loan world, it's time sensitive, right? So we would prefer if you go to like FedEx, UPS, wherever the label is that we're giving you, and get a receipt. Always get a receipt. That's your proof. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about documents to look out for, just one, and then we're going to actually look at a set of documents. So documents to look out for, the MERS rider. So if there is a MERS, which is a Mortgage Electronic Registration Systems Incorporated rider, which we've talked about that in other videos. So if you want to know what that is, we'll talk about it later. But it's a rider, and that rider is typically for the lender, not for you. Or there may be a page for the signer, but the rest is for the lender. And there's also maybe a lender acknowledgement that's attached to the deed. And it might look like this. It'll say by date, but that's normally not how signature lines for signers look, right? Signature lines for signers will have their name. And then if you actually look at the notarization, it'll say, typical notarization by so-and-so, the representative of the mortgage electronic registration system on behalf of that corporation, right? So that wording is not typical wording. So when you see these are not for you to fill out. Now, if you fill them out, it's really not the end of the world. It's not going to require a re-sign. What it will require is that our team, when they quality control them or when escrow does, they'll have to reprint those forms, and it's just more work, right? So when you're looking at them, if you have a question about a notarization, ask the team. Okay, so before we go into looking at the documents, which we'll do right now, if you need more training, we have a YouTube channel with lots of videos that will help you. Some of you've come to this training because you've seen us first on YouTube. Others, you've been with us since the beginning. But if you haven't checked out our YouTube, it's the Coast to Coast Notary Signing Agent University. Now, if you are not on our mailing email list, and you know if you are because you've gotten, like, for example, the invite to this class, email training@c2csignings.com, and we will get you on that email list. And every time we post a video or have a live class, you'll get invited to that. So I don't want you to miss any of these trainings if you like them. And also, if you have any class suggestions, email training@c2csignings. I mean, nobody does this. I know you guys have class suggestions, so make sure to do that. I want to know. I have a 4-part video series that is going to be on the YouTube channel within the week, and that's how to help you pass the notary signing or notary exam for those that are in California. It's like a cram session. So that's going to be posted. But if you are in a state that has a test that's not California, I'd be happy to make a cram session for that if you want help. So there's all sorts of, there's just, the possibilities are endless on what we can cover. So email all your suggestions. We'd love to hear them. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull up these docs and we're going to look at them together. And we're going to see what the standard set of loan docs looks like for partial claims. So let me share my screen again. All right, here it is. Now, so this is a set of partial claims. All personal information has been removed and exchanged with phony information. Hold on, let's see if I can make it a little bigger. Or a little smaller, actually. I feel like I forget how to use this every single time that I use Adobe, but that's okay. Okay. So the first page here, this is one kind of set of partial claims. There's variation, right? So this isn't the end all be all of what you're going to see every time, but oftentimes there's a loss mitigation notary page that is at the top that just gives you the breakdown of what you need to do. So initial call with borrowers, scheduling with borrowers, calls that share where to log on to the vendor's sites, confirming the borrower's identity, contact information, who you can reach out to when you have questions at the signing table. So there may be something like that, which is really nice. Okay, so there might be closing instructions. Again, this is very general. So here you're going to maybe obtain the signer's information, the loan information, more detailed information on the how they want you to proceed with the signing. So something like docs must be signed in blue or black ink in their entirety. This one here, please ensure that the client signs 2 sets of docs. The client does not pay anything for the closing. Present documents for the parties to sign in initial where applicable. So this gives you a good overview of their requirements. Okay, so that's always nice. Sometimes that's not included in there. This company is very generous and they give you a lot of help to help you complete a perfect signing. Okay, so there might be a cover letter that basically breaks down. This is very helpful to the signer. So it might break down their monthly payment information, their interest rate, if there is an interest rate, their principal balance. So this is something nice to give the signer initial right away. Okay, so let's get now, none of those documents had any signatures. So that was just this fluff in the beginning to kind of set you up for signing. Okay, so let's talk about the actual documents. So the promissory note. So this is, in this set of docs, the most important set for the signer to review. This is going to, let me admit some people, this is going to tell them their interest rate, if there is one, the amount of the loan, when it's due, when it matures. So this is a partial claim. So that's the amount the new loan will be, right? Partial claim is when they get a little second loan at the end of their first loan. Okay, right to prepay. Here's a signature and a date. So you present this form. This is the promissory note. What I would say is review the information in bold. And when you're ready, sign and date the third page or second page, sorry. Okay. All right, now we're on to the partial claims mortgage. So this is the actual title, right? Title, this will be filed with the county. So again, I say review the information in bold. And then when we're ready, we're going to sign on this page and date. Whoop. Now the notarization is for you, right? So you're going to notarize. Mortgages, deeds of trust are always notarized. So we're going to have this line for the notarization. You'll put in the state and the county, are known as the venue. This is a Texas one, and it has a little bit more information than, say, a California one. So after you put in the venue, this instrument acknowledged before me, you're going to put your name, your notary name. On this day, personally appeared Edie Tamaz, known to me. So if she's known to you, you can put and proved to me through the document that you identified her with. Or if she is not known to you, you put known to me or proved to me through driver's license, passport, however you identified her. That's what you put there. Okay, if this was done doing online notarization communication technology, you'll check this. Most likely it's not. And then that's the second line, given under my hand and seal of office, that's where you're going to put the date. So this is kind of a confusing one because before me on, it's like on here, you put your notary name there. The date is actually at the bottom below. And then you'll sign and print your notary name here again. So that's the notarization here. Now, this is a Texas one. If you're in Florida, it's going to look a little different. If you're in California, it's going to look different. So you really, on these, you want to really slow it down, read the notarization. Don't just get into the groove of what you normally do. Read it, make sure you are completing it correctly. Ask the company that hired you if you're unsure. Okay, so that's the notarization. Then there's another form called the Notice of No Oral Agreements. Pretty self-explanatory, right? There's been no oral agreements. Everything that's been agreed to has been in writing. Signer needs to sign and date right here. Okay. And errors and omissions and compliance agreement. Basically, the borrower is going to comply with any clerical errors that were made if the lender brings them to their attention. Sign, date. Okay, this is the Texas loan agreement. So again, this just is saying that the loan amount cannot exceed $50,000 and that all written and final agreements are not going to contradict that. And again, there's no oral agreements between parties. So right here, borrower, signs and dates. There's the section by, but that's actually for the lender. Okay, and then there's the last form, which is a correction agreement. Again, similar to what we already signed. So it kind of lists some examples of what typographical errors might look like, and that the notary or signer is going to comply with correcting them. So signature and date. And then there's a FedEx label. So that's everything. Okay, that's what a standard set of loan documents for a partial claims look like. So let's count. Let's see how many signatures we've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 signatures and 1 notarization. How long should that take you? Every signing is different, right? But generally that will take you under 15 minutes to get done. So that's what a standard stat looks like.